How effective is the combination of your main product and auxiliary text? The combination between my main product and auxiliary task is good, as my auxiliary products share the same conventions as my main products. They all share the same colour theme, picture style, font, and they all contain the same masthead. I thought it was important to put the same masthead in both my main product and auxiliary products, so the brand was easily recognised across the whole range of products, linking them all together straight away. I thought it was also important to keep the same sort of colour theme running throughout them, as this helps tie the products together. They start looking similar if they have the same colour themes. It was important to keep the colour theme the same, as it was suitable for my target audience as well as the genre of the magazine. It has a dark background mainly covered by images and a light coloured text along with bright colours to break it up. This is mainly following conventions of other magazines like Fast Car magazine. As well as keeping the masthead and the colour theme the same throughout, I thought it was important to keep the images a similar style. The images all contain modified cars, usually taken from the corner of the car, so that you either get the front and the side of the car or the rear and the side of the car. I also darkened the background of the images to make the car stand out more. I noticed in other magazines and websites of this genre that the image style stayed consistent throughout, so I tried to keep my images of a similar style throughout all of my products. When I combined all of this together, it links all of my products together and makes them look similar and easy to recognise. What have you learned from your audience feedback? My audience feedback showed me several things that helped me to make my product and work around my target audience. My audience feedback was very helpful, as my target audience told me exactly what they wanted to see in this genre of magazine. I learnt that they wanted something different and something that they felt more involved in. This meant that the location aspect of the magazine worked well, as it is only based in the southwest. The audience feedback also showed me that my audience would like to see cars that they could look up to and actually afford, not supercars and cars they would never be able to afford. This meant that instead of including Aston Martins and Ferraris, I included more affordable cars such as VWs and Vauxhalls. The magazine was going to be a modified car magazine anyway, so in a way the more expensive cars wouldn't have been in the magazine. They wanted the magazine to look rebellious, which follows Stanley Hall's theory. They wanted to have their own group of people that were all interested in modified cars, which were affordable. The audience feedback also showed me that they didn't want to read too much. They wanted the information, but they didn't want to have to read lots. I made sure that this was the case with my magazine by having all the information that the reader needed without dragging it out and making huge chunks of text. I also found out that the reader mainly skips past the contents page as they read the whole magazine. However, I still need a contents page. As a solution, I had very little information on the contents page, but enough for the readers that did want to look at it would have a rough idea of where everything was. As well as audience feedback about the magazine, I had some from my website and billboard as well. The audience feedback showed me that the billboard has to contain very little information, has to be clear to read. Most people will see the billboard whilst driving past it, so it needs to be very clear and easy to read. They also need to know what they're looking at though. This means that the billboard must have enough information for the audience to know what they are looking at, but not too much, as the viewer might miss the point of the billboard altogether. The audience research also showed me that the website needed to be simple, easy to use, and contain cars and car features, as well as having a page for the audience to post their own cars for others to see. How did you use media technologies in construction, research, planning and evaluation stages? I used a lot of media technologies in all stages of my product. To research, I used the internet and magazines of my genre. This helped a lot, as it helped me create an idea of common conventions of this genre of magazine. I was then able to start to create my magazine using a Canon 60D camera to take my images. I used both manual and autofocus, but left the other settings alone. iPhoto to import my pictures. I used iPhoto as it works well with importing straight off the SD card and organises the photos so that it was easy for me to flick through and choose the pictures that I wanted to use. And Photoshop to create my magazine. This made it easy to create my magazine, as I was able to piece together my magazine and had the ability to change anything at any time. This meant that if I went back to something that I previously made on Photoshop and I didn't like it anymore, I could just go back and adjust it so that I did like it. The main tools I used on Photoshop were the quick selection tool and the exposure settings. I mainly used these together as I darkened the backgrounds of the images and kept the cars the same. The quick selection tool allowed me to select the background of the image and leave the car out of it, enabling me to edit just the background. This was so that I could have the car standing out of the image, as well as following common conventions of images used in the genre of magazine. I used the band tool as well, which enabled me to darken the image slightly. Other than these tools, I didn't use a lot of others. I just arranged the images, did slight editing, and put some text on my page. I used the same processes to create my billboard too. To create my website, I used an Apple Mac and Dreamweaver. This was a good program to use as it's specially made to create websites. I found this part the worst part of the task, as I'm much more used to using Photoshop and I find it a lot easier to use than Dreamweaver. As well as all these technologies, I've used Blogger throughout my project to document my progress, as well as using Apple Macs throughout to complete my work. For my evaluation, I've used iMovie to edit and the green screen to add my images to the background.